Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, March 27th session of the OBX Wave Report, where we're going to talk all things waves, weather, climate, clean energy, today, storms. Okay, so this picture is from a video I shot earlier today over at Jeanette's Pier. We had some beautiful ocean waters, small, somewhat choppy 1 to 2 foot waves, mainly in the 1 foot range. Occasionally a 2 foot swell would roll in. Got out into the surf, got about 5 to 6 little rides. Good stuff. Beautiful water. Uh, it's warming up. You can feel that it's warming up. I got into the water with my wetsuit, and it's a 2.3 millimeter. It's old as all hell, and had my hood and booties and gloves on. Didn't feel cold at all. Went out for about 45 minutes. No trouble, no numb fingers, no nothing. So temperatures are warming up. Monitors say ocean water temperatures in the range of 52. If it is, that 2 degree difference from 50 to 52 is making a lot of difference for me. But good surf session overall, even though the waves were a little choppy and sloppy. Had some fun, got some good exercise, and helped to improve my skills a little bit. Still learning the Lost Rocket. Um, Parameters on that board are still a little tricky. It's got this flatter nose, so you can pearl easily. And on each surf session, I'd say I probably lose at least one wave to a pearl style wipeout, but nonetheless got some good waves. It's got some good parameters as well. It's pretty fast. The other thing is that the pop-up is a little bit more difficult on the Lost Rocket. I was trying to figure out why, and I've been surfing the one with the rocker, um, that we've been calling the banana lately, and kind of switching out between the two. The Eberly, which is an old board, has a bit more rocker, and so it's a little bit more gentle on the pop-up. With the Lost Rocket, it's like pushing against a really hard platform, and I think that might part of it is the fact that the Rocket it's very solid, it's a very stable board, but it's also got that concave, and the concave holds on to the ocean surface really well, which is positive in some respects. But when you're doing the pop-up, it's like, it's almost like you're doing a squat with some weights on you. It's almost like you're like flying a high G fighter jet, which I guess is one of the reasons why they call it the rocket. But you definitely need to be very solid on your pop-ups with it. Getting better with it. Got some good rides. There is some tweak to it, so it's definitely a tweaky board, but it's got some fun. I was surfing it with a twin fin today. I moved it back to the quad. We're going to go back to the quad for a little while. And I think one of my next projects is going to be switching out the fins and see how it changes the performance parameters of the rocket. But still good fun surf session today. Had some good thoughts on the beach earlier. Check out my YouTube videos. We've got both the observations and some fun stories to share about surfing. All right, so let's get into the wave report. I'm gonna get into the the climate and clean energy discussion. And first, I do want to start with the global surface temperature anomaly map. We woke up this morning with some thunder, and there's been some very powerful thunderstorms across the US Southeast that have destroyed whole sections of towns, left 26 people from what I know now from the reports that are coming in now, um, dead, which is awful. And our hearts go out to the communities in the South that have been slammed by these massive thunderstorms and tornadoes. And one of the features that's helping to fuel these tornadoes is a climate change related feature. The Gulf of Mexico is much warmer than normal, and so is the North Atlantic. So we've got more fuel for thunderstorms. And if you got more fuel for thunderstorms, the peak intensity the peak potential intensity of those thunderstorms goes up. And so there's a climate crisis fingerprint on the tornadoes. And let's look at, I just do want to show you guys the ocean surface temperatures. We're going to get into currents. And I talk about ocean surface temperatures all the time because they're just really a big deal when it comes to weather and climate. And you can just see how we're looking at an anomaly map. So if I click on the location and it's in the positive, it'll show, how much warmer than normal it is, and then how much colder than normal it is. But right now, if you look at the Gulf of Mexico, it's basically 2 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. If you get out here in the Gulf Stream, you've got sections of the Gulf Stream that are, you know, 10, 11, 12 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. And then just huge swath of the Atlantic Ocean, most of the Atlantic Ocean above normal. But you got this pool of moisture and heat near the US, and if you get cold and instability moving down, it can tap into that to produce some severe weather. We're going to get into more on the thunder. Well, I'm going to talk more about the thunderstorms later, but I do want to show you what some of the folks on Twitter are saying about the thunderstorms. And the Southern Poverty Law Center is a fantastic advocate against extremism in the U.S. But they also produced this good comment on the tornadoes, and I just wanted to read this for you. Communities across the South are working to rebuild after a weekend of intense storms and scattered tornadoes that left 26 people dead. Mississippi is especially hard hit, prompting President Biden, I'm having a flashback to Obama, which is a good flashback, by the way, prompting President Biden to okay a disaster declaration for parts of the state. And so we've got disaster declarations up after this rash of tornadoes, in part fueled by the much warmer than normal waters of the Gulf of Mexico. And then I just wanted to highlight this article from Daily Kos, which Beth here is posting in a tweet. Yes, the climate crisis behind more and deadly tornadoes like those on Friday night. 2019 study, just one of many warnings that with rising global temperatures will come more severe storms in the US. This is a pattern that is expected to get worse. And I just wanted to highlight this article and this study because, and the tornado formation is generally linked to the intensity of thunderstorms. And so if you have more intense thunderstorms, generally, you tend to have more tornadoes. And with climate crisis, you've got more heat available and more convective energy available from that evaporation of moisture generally. So with more intense thunderstorms, you probably end up with more tornadoes. Now, there are more complexities involved regarding like the distribution of tornadoes and whether or not there's enough instability to form the thunderstorms in the first place in a given location. So all of those factors come into play. And I would steer you to the climatologists and the climate scientists on, for the final word on this. But at a basic level, the more heat there is in the Earth's system and the more convection there's going to be and the more potential peak intensity you have for the thunderstorms because there's just a lot more energy there. All right, so just some discussion regarding the terrible tornado outbreak and climate change. And as I talk about climate change, I do want to transition a little bit to the clean energy discussion. Uh, Lately, I've been struggling with this whole notion of how to support the clean energy transition. And what I have decided to do is focus on the positives and focus on the technologies and the practices that are going to get us to net zero carbon emissions and net negative carbon emissions the fastest. But I keep running into this discussion in the zeitgeist, this tendency that people have to just glom on to marketing campaigns or cults of personality, or what individuals might say. And I'm going to throw a few things out there into the mix to be a bit of a gadfly. And you guys might find what I say to be a little bit uncomfortable, because I'm going to challenge you to think and not just follow. I'm going to challenge you to be a leader and to be analytical and not just blindly follow people who have power. And particularly, I'm going to focus on CEOs. And I think generally we have a problem with CEOs. CEOs have too much power and they tend to abuse it. And we struggle to keep the CEOs and billionaires and oligarchs in check, because they have so much power and influence to hold them accountable. And we all need accountability as individuals. Um, Accountability is kind of a part of how we stay positive in our path in life, and do not become abusive and just focused on self and selfish gains, or even get into all sorts of other weirdness. And so as I talk about this, I want to focus more. I want to focus on two CEOs, the CEO of Tesla, Elon Musk, and the CEO of Toyota, who is now stepping down, CEO of Toyota being Akio Toyota. And and in my opinion, both of these CEOs are troublesome. Elon Musk recently has just generated all kinds of trouble in his Twitter takeover, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But the CEO of Toyota has been a major attacker of one of the most rapidly deployable segments of clean energy, the electric vehicle. And Toyota has rightly received a lot of criticism from the clean energy advocates for its failures on electric vehicles. Toyota started out as this potential leader in clean energy when it deployed the Prius, which was a hybrid electric vehicle. But then it seemed to just get stuck. It kind of doubled down on hybrids, as like one segment of the business, and then it clung with increasing kind of irrationality to harmful fossil fuel based vehicles and got sucked into the trap, the oil company trap of lobbying against clean energy and attacking the the leader technologies for clean energy. And that this has turned Toyota into a bad actor, and in large part due to the failed leadership of what I'm going to say. I'm going to use a like a not nice word here, a jerk CEO. And this CEO has come up with all kinds of distractions. I mean, for example, the constant promotion of hydrogen without even really committing to build a hydrogen infrastructure, at any kind of serious level. And as we have noted before, hydrogen is just very difficult to rapidly scale, which is one of the reasons why I don't promote it here. I'm not going to promote the slow horse. I'm going to promote the fast horse. And unless hydrogen can prove to me that they can be green, because right now most of the hydrogen comes from reformed methane, which is carbon intensive. So unless hydrogen can prove to me that they're going to be green and they're going to be fast, I'm not going to promote it. And it ends up looking like a boondoggle when someone like the present Toyota CEO promotes it, but then lobbies against climate action at the legislative level. So, so we've got one kind of jerk CEO here in the form of Akio, who is stepping down amid Toyota's failure to deploy electric vehicles and falling further and further behind. And I did want to talk about this other article about Toyota, which lumps Toyota in with Exxon and Chevron as the largest anti-climate lobbyists. This back from 2021. And this once again is a failure of leadership on the part of Toyota's CEO. Um, you don't want to be with the fossil fuel industry. You want to be with the clean energy industry, particularly as we start to get into a period where we need to more and more rapidly act on climate. Now, as we think about rapid action on climate, let's talk about a positive industry and a negative CEO. I'm going to make you uncomfortable talking about this because it involves a distinction. Most people simplistically lump one with the other. If the leader of a company is failing, then they tend to see the company itself as failing. And don't get me wrong, failed leadership does have a negative impact on the company. But in the case of Tesla and Elon Musk, we've got a divergence. Tesla itself is a sustainability behemoth. It is a 100% clean energy corporation and is the first of its kind, and it is unique in the Western world. It not only mass deploys electric vehicles, but it focuses on sustainability-based measures such as solar roofs and other helpful clean energy-based technologies that in a global posture help to rapidly reduce carbon emissions. If all the OEMs were like Tesla, global carbon emissions would be much, much less, and we'd be on a much faster track to a sustainable future, a future where heat and greenhouse gases are not wrecking things like the beautiful Outer Banks in which I live. So Tesla itself is a good actor, a very good actor. In fact, an example, a shining example of what we can do and what we should be doing, right? But then we got Elon Musk, who I don't know, just acts weird on social media, makes a real fool of himself. I've seen him post tweets that promote anti-vaxxers, weirdo trucker convoys with links to fascist groups, um, platforming anti-democracy propaganda, platforming pro-Putin propaganda, spamming cryptocurrency, which helped lead to the collapse of a couple of banks recently, um, and apparently allegedly partnering with the Saudis to create this kind of weirdness on Twitter, and turn Twitter or trying to turn Twitter into this, I don't know, 4chan, anti-democracy, right-wing extremist center that promotes anti-democracy violence once again, and partnering with like some of the worst actors in the globe, apparently, to do it. So in this case, we've got a very bad actor, at least recently, in the form of Elon Musk, at the head of Tesla, which begs the question, does Tesla really need Elon? I'm going to say no, because especially right now, because he's doing we'll just call it a spade a spade. He's doing the jerk CEO thing. He's acting like a baby billionaire who cares only for himself and just wants to create destructive drama and is not acting like the clean energy leader that Tesla needs at the helm. So, two companies. Toyota, one recently a very bad actor on the issue of climate change, another Tesla, recently a very good actor on the issue of climate change, but two CEOs that are acting like weirdos and acting destructively and creating bad actor forms of leadership. So yeah, so that's my preamble discussion for the OBX wave report today. I wanted to get into it because I promote clean energy and I drive a Tesla. And there's a distinction between bad leadership and good corporate policy. And right now, Tesla is still on a good track, despite the failures, the obvious failures of Elon Musk. And I really hope now, with the stepping down of the present CEO of Toyota, that Toyota moves more toward rapid deployment of clean energy and stops the whole distraction thing, stops lobbying against clean energy, stops promoting boondoggles instead of real action, and starts doing what it can to help the world transition to clean energy, to go back to the leadership that it displayed when it was out there leading on hybrids rather than looking back and clinging to the old bad policies. All right, so let's get into the weather and wave and climate portion section of the OBX wave report. And here we've got the geocolor composite image of the lower 48. We've got a strong frontal system draped over the southeast with very severe weather that continues to impact parts of the southeast. Today here, I woke up this morning with a crack of thunder. I was going to get out for dawn patrol, try and get a picture of the sunrise for you guys, but thunder boomers prevented me, and so I slept in for another hour and then got out into the surf a little bit later. Nonetheless, still cloudy across the Outer Banks as the first batch of thunderstorms moves offshore. We got another batch off to our south and west that might move through parts of the Outer Banks later today. Up to the north, there's some wintry weather as you run into the U.S. Northeast and Canada. And in the northern tier, we've got some clouds and possible snow showers over the Rockies, parts of Montana, and the Dakotas. Clear in sections of the central U.S. And then out west, we've got a storm lurking again off the U.S. West Coast. Looking at the enhanced satellite tops provided by Tropical Tidbits, let me go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit more. You can really see those high thunderstorm cloud tops popping over the U.S. Southeast. The bright reds are associated with strong lines of severe thunderstorms, possible supercell thunderstorms. And here, just off the Outer Banks, you can see the thunderstorms that passed through, woke me up this morning. You got some enhanced cloud tops over the Great Lakes region and some enhanced cloud tops over the Rockies, as well as the swirl off the U.S. West Coast. Getting into the National Weather Service radar picture, I'm just going to zoom in on the most recent line of thunderstorms moving through parts of New Orleans. Well, it looks like just north of New Orleans, running in through parts of Gulf Coast, Mississippi, then stringing down through Alabama, south of Atlanta, and into South Carolina. I'm going to go ahead and click on the map so we can get the alerts. And you can see the weather advisories. Looks like a lot of flood warnings up. I don't know if we've got severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado watches up, but let's check. Yep, severe thunderstorm watches and flood watches up ahead of this line of thunderstorms. So no tornado watches as yet, which is good news. Hopefully that'll stay as we get further into the heating of the day, which tends to pump up those thunderstorms. What I will say is these thunderstorms are already pretty powerful, so we'll just have to keep an eye on those as they progress. And then for the Outer Banks, some small craft advisories up, but nothing too crazy. Zooming out, you can see some disturbed weather over parts of the U.S. Northeast south of the Great Lakes. And then out west, we've got that other storm moving into California, along with some scattered snows and wintry weather across portions of the upper central US and the Rockies. Getting down at last to our local observations, I did talk about some other things in the wave report today. Got to hold those powerful actors accountable, right? Okay, so getting down to Jeanette's Pier. Did get to Jeanette's Pier today, got a good surf session in. We talked about that. Right now, waves at Jeanette's Pier in the range of 1 to 2 foot. Uh, Primary swell coming out of the I'm sorry, east northeast at 16 seconds. That's about a 0.8 foot swell. Secondary swell also coming out of the east northeast at 11 seconds, another 0.8 foot swell. Winds out of the southeast 11 miles per hour. That's a moderate onshore flow. Air temperature 62 degrees, higher than what most of the weather predictions were stating. And then ocean water temperatures 52 degrees. I felt really comfortable out there in my 32 millimeter wetsuit, hood, booties, gloves. Um, I've also gotten used to the cold, but it was not that bad. Weather conditions for today, mostly cloudy, some sun. Chance of thunderstorms as the second batch potentially moves through later today, high in the middle 60s. All right, heading on down the coast past Oregon Inlet to Rodanthe. Let's go ahead and zoom out. We're going to get past Coquina Beach, where we had some friends riding with their horses in the surf, which is just majestic if you ask me. But heading on down south to Rodanthe, which is a really fun break here. We've got 1 to 2 foot waves with a primary swell coming in out of the east northeast at 16 seconds. That's also a 0.8 foot swell. Secondary swell coming in out of the east southeast at 9 seconds, 0.8 foot. About the same size, a little bit different orientation for the swell. Winds very light at 2 miles per hour coming in from the southeast. That is a onshore flow. Air temperatures in the range of 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water temperatures 58, getting close to the 60-degree mark there at Rodanthe. And weather conditions cloudy, chance of a thunderstorm later today, highs in the upper 60s. And then for our last location at Buxton, we're just going to head on down south past Avon, where the waves are 1 to 2 foot as well. We're going to go past the Froggy Dog down there at Avon. Shout out to the Froggy Dog. All right, and heading on down to Buxton. Waves are in the range of 2 to 3 foot. We got a primary swell coming in at 16 seconds. That's nearly a foot. And secondary swell coming in at 9 seconds at 1.1 foot. Winds out of the northeast at 7 miles per hour. That is a gentle onshore flow. Air temperatures 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean water temperatures 63. And then for today, mostly cloudy. Chance of thunderstorms, highs near 70. So 1 to 3 foot waves across the Outer Banks today, rideable, but nothing too good to write home about. Okay, getting down to climate, let's look at the global anomaly map. And right now, the global anomaly is in the range of 0.56 degrees Celsius above the 1981 to 2010 reference period, which is already a warmer than normal reference period. The Arctic is looking actually pretty warm compared to averages at 1.366 degrees Celsius above normal. And the Antarctic is also heating up as well at 0.62 degrees Celsius above normal. And looking at the hot spots again, the Arctic is generally much warmer than normal. We've got warmer than normal temperatures across the US Southeast and parts of eastern Canada, colder than normal temperatures for parts of central and western Canada, and this big swath of much warmer than normal temperatures running from Europe into Asia. This has been in place for a while. I've been talking about fire weather. I'm a little bit concerned about it for this region. And then for Northwest Africa, this is a continuing situation as well. Australia, Central Australia is still seeing the heat. So those are the major hotspots around the globe and the general sense of heat across the globe. For the lower 48, looking at storm potential, we do see continued storm potential for the US West Coast. This is like a broken record, right? More storms heading on into California, parts of Oregon and Washington. We've had a record year for precipitation in California. I'm going to talk a little bit about whether or not that ended the drought in a little bit. Spoiler alert, probably not. And then for the US Southeast, we got this tendency for heavy storms near the Gulf Coast region. And and some tendency for storminess offshore. I'm interested in this from a wave perspective. If we get some storms offshore, the waves will get better. We'll have to see how things go with that. So I did want to talk about the drought in California and the US West. And I'm going to flip here to the drought monitor. So the question is, did the record precipitation in the California drought? And the answer is no. I mean, we've still got drought conditions for a large section of the US West. The drought has been tamped down considerably by the record precipitation, but the drought has not gone away. And this is something to talk about with regards to climate change, because even though California is getting an extreme precipitation, what California is really getting is these extreme swings between heavy precipitation and severe drought. And this is something that was predicted by the climate scientists as the Earth heated up. And let's hope that the next swing to severe drought isn't too terrible, but the dice are loaded in that direction. It is worth noting, though, that the most intense drought right now is occurring over parts of the central US, and that's actually some pretty severe drought. As we get more into spring and to summer, we might be monitoring the drought monitor more. But I did want to show you guys what's going on. All right, now I want to get to the 8 to 14 day outlook. And right now, in the 8 to 14 day time period, it does look like the US Southeast is expected to continue to see above normal temperatures. So here in the Outer Banks, we're going to get some warmer conditions. Colder conditions are colder than normal conditions for the US West and the US Northwest. And then for the lower 48, mostly above normal precipitation, so generally enhanced storminess, but nothing really crazy popping here in the way of hot spots. Okay, now let's get into the Storm Prediction Center analysis. And for today, we've still got some potential for severe thunderstorms in the US Southeast. This line after line of thunderstorms have impacted in the range of 20 to 30 million people over the past few days. And unfortunately, these thunderstorms are still firing, but it does look like after today, the severe weather potential will tend to tamp down, at least according to the forecast. We'll have to see if that is the case. Although it is worth noting that we still do have some severe thunderstorm potential on the Gulf Coast for tomorrow. And finally, let's get into our wave forecast for the Outer Banks. And the general consensus among the wave monitors is that we will have steadily improving wave conditions over the next few days. And right now we've got swells in the range of 2.4 feet. Make sure this is now, yep, 2.4 feet. This is oriented toward shore. A little choppy, a little sloppy out there, but definitely rideable. So basically 2 to 3 foot swells in the near offshore environment. And then tomorrow, the swell is expected to orient more toward the north as the storminess pushes offshore and we get more of a northerly wind. And the northerly wind is expected to push up the swell into the range of 3 to 5 foot. So we could have some larger swells tomorrow. And then as we get into the day on Wednesday, the swell orients more to the northeast, and this looks even better to me, and also 3 to 4 foot swell for most beaches in the near offshore environment. And then as we get into Thursday, swell falls down a little in the 3 to 4 foot range, but still looking pretty good here with that orientation out of the northeast. We'll have to see how things shape up. And then as we get into Friday, the 31st of March, end of March, waves orienting more toward the east once again, and then in a 2 to 3 foot range. So generally small to medium sized waves, but improving waves through the week. So thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. Boy, did we get into a lot of things. We have had quite a show for you guys today. At the end, I am going to ask you, as I always do, to please help. And that goes for your CEOs out there. No nonsense from you guys. help speed the deployment of clean energy and protect our coastlines from the impacts of climate change, which are driven by the burning of fossil fuels. And the only way that we can prevent more powerful storms and coastlines being flooded by sea level rise is to stop burning fossil fuels. It's just basic, right? And the clean energy technologies that we have available to us that are capable of rapid and mass deployment are wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles. We're going to wait on hydrogen. I'm not promoting it now. But if you guys get a lot of electrolyzers out there, if you CEO types decide to invest in a boatload of electrolyzers and the cost of energy for electrolysis goes down to the point that it can outcompete the fossil fuel-based hydrogen energy source, then I'll be out there promoting it because versatile hydrogen could be a major tool for helping the clean energy transition. But I do think that for vehicles, it's most likely that electric vehicles are going to still run out ahead of hydrogen fueled vehicles. I think that hydrogen is going to be more helpful for us, for example, for helping with steel production or possibly aviation. We'll see. Or possibly like heavy shipping for ocean vessels or, you know, freight, although I do think batteries might work better for freight, but we'll have to see. I mean, there's arguments both ways. But right now, I'm not going to promote hydrogen. I mean, you guys got to make it green. You got to make it clean. I'm not going to promote something that's not clean. So thank you for joining me, and I will be back with you shortly.